Every year, thousands of tourists die at attractions that promise nothing more than a great view or an unforgettable experience. Some fall from cliffs while taking selfies, others drown in waters they were warned to avoid, and many simply underestimate nature's power until it's too late. 10. Cliffs of Moher, Ireland. Standing 700 feet above the Atlantic Ocean, the Cliffs of Moher stretch for 5 miles along Ireland's western coast, attracting over 1 million visitors annually to witness some of Europe's most dramatic coastal scenery. The official viewing areas behind stone walls seem safe enough, but they don't satisfy most tourists who climb over barriers to get closer to the edge for better photographs. What many don't realize is that the cliff edges are constantly eroding, with chunks of rock breaking away without warning, and sudden Atlantic winds can gust its speed strong enough to knock adults off their feet. At least 66 people have died at the Cliffs of Moher since the 1990s, with deaths occurring every few months during peak tourist season. Many victims are found after falling from areas beyond the designated viewing platforms, often at dusk when lighting makes it difficult to judge distances. The soft shale and sandstone that forms these cliffs becomes treacherous when wet, which happens frequently in Ireland's rainy climate. Rescue operations are complicated by the fact that bodies often wash away in the powerful Atlantic currents before recovery is possible. Irish authorities have installed warning signs in multiple languages and even motion sensor alarms near dangerous areas. But these measures do little to deter tourists obsessed with capturing the perfect sunset photo from the edge. The cliff's popularity on social media has actually increased risk-taking behavior, with visitors attempting increasingly dangerous positions to replicate viral images. Despite the documented deaths and regular rescue operations, the Cliffs of Moher remain one of Ireland's most visited attractions, with many tourists dismissing the dangers until they personally witness rescue helicopters airlifting injured visitors from the rocks below. 9. Lake Natron, Tanzania. Sitting at the base of Oldoinyo Lengai, Africa's only active carbonatite volcano, Lake Natron appears beautiful from a distance with its striking red and pink hues. However, this shallow salt lake is essentially a death trap, with water temperatures reaching 140 degrees Fahrenheit and alkaline levels so high they can strip skin and cause severe chemical burns within minutes of contact. The lake's pH can reach 12, nearly as caustic as ammonia, creating an environment hostile to almost all life except specially adapted flamingos and certain algae species that give the water its blood-red coloring. What makes Lake Natron particularly sinister is its ability to calcify and preserve dead animals that fall into its waters, creating eerily intact statues of birds and bats that appear frozen in their death positions. Despite clear warnings about the water's toxicity, some tourists attempt to wade in for photographs, resulting in severe burns requiring medical evacuation from this extremely remote location. The nearest proper medical facility is hours away over rough roads, making even minor injuries potentially life-threatening if infection sets in. The combination of extreme heat, toxic fumes from the lake, and the active volcano creates an environment that can cause disorientation and heat exhaustion, even for those who avoid direct water contact. Local Maasai guides are essential for safely visiting Lake Natron, as they know which areas are relatively safe and when conditions are too dangerous for any approach. The volcano occasionally releases toxic gases that can accumulate in low areas around the lake, creating invisible hazards that have sickened unprepared visitors. Scientists studying the lake's unique extremophile organisms must wear full protective equipment. Yet tourists often arrive in regular swimwear, expecting a typical African lake experience. Climate change is making conditions even more extreme, with water temperatures and alkalinity levels increasing as the lake shrinks, concentrating its deadly chemical cocktail. 8. Acapulco Cliff Divers, La Quebrada, Mexico. Since 1934, professional divers in Acapulco have been performing one of the world's most dangerous spectacles, leaping 136 feet from jagged cliffs into a narrow ocean cove just 12 feet deep and 20 feet wide. The divers must time their jumps perfectly with incoming waves to ensure sufficient water depth, as the cove empties to dangerously shallow levels between swells. A mistimed jump or a slight miscalculation of the entry angle can result in impact with rocks or the ocean floor, which has happened multiple times throughout the show's history, causing serious injuries and occasional fatalities. What tourists don't always realize is that La Quebrada isn't just a show to watch. Some visitors attempt to replicate the dives themselves, almost always with catastrophic results. The professional divers spend years training and know precisely when and where to jump based on wave patterns, tide levels, and current conditions that change daily. Amateur attempts by tourists, often intoxicated and encouraged by peers, have resulted in numerous deaths and life-altering injuries, including paralysis and traumatic brain injuries. The rocks surrounding the diving area are sharp and unforgiving, and rescue operations in the turbulent water are extremely difficult. The professional divers face their own risks despite their expertise, with many suffering from long-term injuries, including hearing damage from repeated high-impact water entries, back problems, and joint issues. Several divers have died over the decades, with the most recent fatality occurring when a diver was swept onto rocks by an unexpected wave surge. Despite the obvious dangers, the show continues multiple times daily, drawing crowds of tourists who pay to watch humans risk their lives for entertainment. Mexican authorities have attempted to prevent copycat jumps with fencing and security, but the allure of replicating the feat continues to tempt visitors who vastly overestimate their abilities and underestimate the deadly precision required. 7. Mount Washington, New Hampshire, USA. At just 6,288 feet, Mount Washington is nowhere near the world's tallest peaks, yet it holds the distinction of having the worst weather in America and weather as severe as many mountains twice its height. The summit has recorded wind speeds of 231 miles per hour, the highest ever measured on Earth's surface outside a tornado, along with temperatures that have plunged to minus 47 degrees Fahrenheit with wind chills reaching minus 100 degrees Fahrenheit. This small mountain has claimed over 160 lives, earning it the nickname the most dangerous small mountain in the world, due to weather that can transform from pleasant hiking conditions to deadly storms in less than an hour. What makes Mount Washington particularly deadly is its accessibility and the false sense of security this creates. Tourists can drive or take a cog railway to the summit, seeing others in casual clothing and assuming the mountain is safe for unprepared hikers. But the weather station at the summit exists specifically because conditions here represent some of the world's most extreme weather. With the mountain sitting at the intersection of several storm tracks that collide with often catastrophic results, hikers caught above treeline in sudden storms have died from hypothermia even in summer months, with visibility dropping to zero and winds strong enough to prevent movement or blow people off their feet. The combination of New England's unpredictable weather and the mountain's popularity with inexperienced hikers creates a deadly situation nearly every year. Rescue teams stationed on Mount Washington respond to emergencies almost weekly during summer months, with many incidents involving unprepared day hikers who started in shorts and t-shirts, unaware that summit conditions can be 30 to 40 degrees colder with life-threatening winds. The mountain's deceptively modest elevation leads many to underestimate it, not realizing that deaths have occurred in every month of the year, including during perfect weather days when sudden changes caught victims by surprise. Despite prominent warnings, detailed weather forecasts, and regular publicity about deaths, tourists continue to treat Mount Washington like a casual walk rather than the serious mountaineering challenge it represents. 6. Blue Hole, Dahab, Egypt. This 400-foot deep underwater sinkhole in the Red Sea near Dahab has earned the grim nickname Diver's Cemetery. with somewhere between 130 and 200 confirmed diving deaths, making it possibly the world's most deadly dive site. The Blue Hole's appeal lies in the Arch, a tunnel starting at 180 feet depth that connects the hole to open water, offering experienced technical divers a thrilling underwater challenge. However, the combination of extreme depth, nitrogen narcosis that impairs judgment, and the psychological pull of the Arch has proven deadly even for expert divers, with many becoming disoriented or running out of air while attempting the passage. What makes the Blue Hole particularly dangerous is the phenomenon known as deep water blackout, where nitrogen narcosis at depth creates a false sense of euphoria and confidence, causing divers to exceed their limits or ignore warning signs from their bodies and equipment. The Arch sits below recreational diving limits at a depth where nitrogen narcosis affects decision-making, causing some divers to remove their regulators or make other fatal choices while experiencing narcosis. Bodies of deceased divers remain in the Blue Hole, with some still hanging in the water column, serving as grim reminders that have done little to deter others from attempting the dive. Local dive operators in Dahab have different standards, with some taking proper safety precautions, while others are willing to guide unprepared tourists for the Arch dive with minimal questions about certification or experience. The Egyptian authorities have installed a memorial plaque listing names of divers who have died in the Blue Hole, but this has paradoxically increased the site's fame among certain diving communities who see surviving the challenge as a mark of skill. Technical diving experts from around the world have condemned recreational attempts at the Arch dive, noting that proper equipment, training, and gas mixtures are essential, yet recreational divers continue attempting it with standard scuba gear, often with fatal results. 5. Horseshoe Bend, Arizona, USA. Horseshoe Bend, where the Colorado River makes a dramatic 270-degree turn around a sandstone escarpment, has become an Instagram phenomenon and a statistical nightmare for safety officials. Unlike many dangerous attractions, Horseshoe Bend has no entrance fee, no barriers, and until very recently, no guardrails of any kind along the 1,000-foot cliff edge. The overlook sits on crumbly sandstone that erodes constantly, meaning the edge can break away unexpectedly, and the smooth rock surface slopes gently toward the drop, giving visitors a false sense of security as they walk progressively closer to fatal falls. Since becoming popular through social media, Horseshoe Bend has experienced at least a dozen confirmed deaths, and many more serious injuries from falls over the edge. Most victims were attempting to capture photographs or selfies from dramatic positions near the cliff edge, and in several cases, witnesses reported that chunks of the sandstone rim simply gave way beneath victims who weren't even at the immediate edge. The site's location in Arizona desert means summer temperatures regularly exceed 110 degrees Fahrenheit, and the lack of shade on the half-mile walk from parking to the overlook causes heat-related medical emergencies regularly, with some visitors becoming disoriented from heat exhaustion and stumbling too close to the edge. In response to deaths, Park Service officials finally installed a split rail fence in 2019, but this barrier is set back from the edge specifically to allow photographers continued access to dramatic vantage points. The fence creates a safe area that's actually still quite close to fatal drops, and many visitors simply climb around the fence to reach their desired photo locations. Strong desert winds add another variable, with sudden gusts capable of knocking people off balance, particularly dangerous near the exposed edge. The combination of unstable footing, extreme heat, massive crowds during peak season, and social media-driven competition for the most dramatic photos has transformed what should be a scenic overlook into one of America's most dangerous tourist destinations, with the death toll expected to continue rising as visitor numbers increase. 4. K2, Pakistan/China border. K2, the world's second highest mountain at 28,251 feet, has earned a reputation as far deadlier than Mount Everest. Despite being only about 800 feet shorter, approximately 1 in 4 climbers who attempt K2's summit dies in the attempt, compared to Everest's death rate of about 1 in 25. Known as Savage Mountain, K2 presents nearly every hazard mountaineering offers. Extreme altitude where oxygen levels are insufficient to sustain human life, avalanche-prone slopes, serac falls, technical rock and ice climbing sections, and notoriously unpredictable weather that can trap climbers for days or weeks at lethal altitudes. Unlike Everest, K2 has no easy routes to the summit, and no amount of commercial guided support can eliminate the need for serious technical climbing skills. The mountain's steep pyramid shape means avalanches and rockfall are constant threats, with debris fields littering the standard routes. K2's bottleneck section, where climbers must navigate beneath a massive hanging glacier called a serac, is particularly feared. In 2008, a serac collapse triggered a disaster that killed 11 climbers in a single day, the mountain's worst accident. The extreme altitude means even minor injuries or illness can quickly become fatal, and rescue above 26,000 feet is essentially impossible, with helicopter operations infeasible in the thin air. What makes K2 particularly deadly is that summit attempts must often happen within very narrow weather windows, creating pressure to push on despite deteriorating conditions. The mountain's location at the junction of several weather systems makes forecasting especially difficult, with conditions capable of changing from clear to whiteout blizzard in hours. Climate change is altering K2's conditions, with warming temperatures, increasing rockfall, and changing snow conditions in ways that make traditionally used routes more dangerous. Despite its reputation, or perhaps because of it, K2 attracts ambitious climbers seeking to prove themselves on mountaineering's most feared peak, with deaths occurring every few years as the mountain extracts its price from those who underestimate its dangers or overestimate their capabilities. 3. Lake Kivu, Rwanda/Democratic Republic of Congo. On the surface, Lake Kivu appears to be a peaceful body of water straddling the Rwanda-DRC border, hosting swimmers, kayakers, and beachfront resorts. However, beneath this calm facade lies one of Earth's 3 exploding lakes, bodies of water that contain massive amounts of dissolved carbon dioxide and methane in their depths, capable of suddenly releasing deadly gas clouds in an event called a limnic eruption. Scientists estimate Lake Kivu contains 256 cubic kilometers of carbon dioxide and 65 cubic kilometers of methane, more than enough to asphyxiate everyone living near its shores, if released suddenly, potentially killing millions. The danger comes from the lake's unique geology, where volcanic activity continuously adds gases to the water, which become trapped under pressure in the lake's deep layers. A volcanic eruption, earthquake, landslide, or even just the right conditions could trigger a catastrophic rollover where these gases suddenly bubble to the surface, similar to opening a shaken soda bottle on a massive scale. In 1986, a similar but smaller event at Lake Nyos in Cameroon released a cloud of carbon dioxide that killed 1,746 people and 3,500 livestock in a single night. Lake Kivu contains exponentially more dissolved gas and has about 2 million people living along its shores, making it potentially one of the world's largest natural disaster risks. Despite this known threat, tourism continues at Lake Kivu, with visitors swimming, boating, and staying at lakeside resorts, often completely unaware of the danger. Scientists have installed a degassing system to gradually remove methane from the lake's depths, both to reduce danger and to harvest energy. But this system extracts only a fraction of the gases being continuously added by volcanic activity. Local authorities downplay the risk to avoid harming tourism, and most visitors never learn they're recreating on top of a potential catastrophe. While a catastrophic limnic eruption is considered unlikely in the near future, the possibility remains real, making Lake Kivu unique as a tourist destination where the danger is invisible generally unknown, and potentially deadly for everyone in the region if conditions align for disaster. 2. Nazca Lines Flights, Peru. The only way to truly appreciate the ancient Nazca Lines, massive geoglyphs etched into Peru's coastal desert over 1,500 years ago, is from the air, leading thousands of tourists annually to board small propeller planes for 30-minute flights over the mysterious formations. These scenic flights have become notorious as one of the world's most dangerous tourist activities, with numerous crashes over the years, killing dozens of passengers and crew. The combination of aging aircraft, turbulent conditions over the desert, and aggressive flying maneuvers to give passengers better views has created a statistical nightmare, with accident rates far exceeding normal aviation standards. What makes Nazca flights particularly dangerous is the flying style required to showcase the lines. Pilots must perform tight banking turns and fly at low altitudes to give both sides of the plane good views of different geoglyphs, creating forces and motions that cause most passengers severe motion sickness, while pushing small aircraft to their operational limits. The desert creates thermals and turbulence that can be severe, especially during midday when most flights operate, and the region's weather can change quickly from clear to sandstorm conditions. Several crashes have been attributed to pilot disorientation during aggressive maneuvers, structural failures when planes were stressed beyond their limits, or maintenance issues with aircraft that were kept flying despite mechanical problems. Peruvian aviation authorities have struggled to regulate Nazca flight operators effectively, with some companies operating older aircraft and cutting maintenance costs to offer cheaper flights. After particularly deadly accidents, temporary crackdowns occur, but enforcement eventually relaxes as tourism economic pressures mount. Passengers often have no way to judge which operators maintain proper safety standards, and the competitive market means the cheapest flights, which may indicate inadequate maintenance, are often the most popular. Despite the documented dangers and regular accidents, most tourists consider the flights a necessary part of any Nazca visit, often unaware of the substantial risks until they experience the intense aerial maneuvering firsthand and wonder if they'll make it back to the ground safely. 1. El Capitan, Yosemite National Park, USA. Rising 3,000 feet of sheer vertical granite above Yosemite Valley, El Capitan represents one of rock climbing's ultimate challenges and has been the site of over 30 climbing deaths since the 1950s. While most visitors simply photograph this massive monolith from the ground, several hundred climbers attempt its various routes each year, spending days living on the wall while dealing with rockfall, equipment failures, weather changes, and the physical demands of technical climbing at serious grades. Traditional routes can take experienced climbers 3 to 5 days, during which they sleep in suspended portaledges hanging thousands of feet above the ground, cook meals, and deal with biological necessities while clipped to anchors on vertical or overhanging rock. Beyond traditional climbing, El Capitan has become the epicenter of free soloing, climbing without ropes or protection, where any mistake means certain death. In 2017, Alex Honnold's successful free solo of El Cap's Freerider route was documented in the film Free Solo, bringing international attention to this extreme version of climbing. While Honnold survived, numerous other climbers attempting unprotected climbs on El Cap have fallen to their deaths over the decades. Even roped climbing on El Capitan is deadly, with accidents occurring from rockfall. Entire sections of the wall occasionally break off. Equipment failure, human error in protection placement, and exhaustion-related mistakes during the multi-day commitment. What makes El Capitan particularly dangerous in recent years is how its fame has attracted climbers who lack the experience for its serious routes, but attempt them anyway, driven by ego or social media aspirations. The wall's difficulty ratings start at levels that would be considered expert elsewhere, yet its reputation draws climbers who've had success on smaller crags and vastly underestimate the difference. Rescue operations from El Cap are complex and dangerous, requiring specialized teams and often helicopter support. but are attempted regularly as climbers get injured, stuck, or find themselves unable to continue. The psychological toll of spending days exposed on a vertical wall, with constant awareness that protection might fail or rock might fall at any moment, breaks some climbers mentally, even if they don't suffer physical injuries. El Capitan remains the ultimate test in rock climbing, extracting a regular toll from those who challenge its massive granite walls. These 10 locations prove that danger exists at every price point and skill level across the globe. Some deaths come from nature's unpredictable power, others from human error, but all share visitors who believe the risks wouldn't apply to them. The line between adventure and disaster is often thinner than the edge of a cliff. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more, did you know facts? Click on the video appearing on your screen now and remember to hit the subscribe button.